there was a mayor here at that time, and he decided that the West End was not what he so chose it to be. There's a lot of issues as a teenager. There's things that I heard that the normal public did not hear. Uh, it was um, it was like a cleansing of Rockville Center. It was a thing that
A cleansing? I
a
didn't.
cleansing
A cleansing.
of Rockville Center, that they wanted all the blacks out and all the Jews out. Uh, this is a student. I mean, I was in 8th grade when I came to New York. So kids tend to hear things that adults don't hear. And because the West End was predominantly black, uh, they decided to come in, bring urban renewal in. Urban renewal came in because our pastor at that time sort of encouraged the people to sell their homes in the West End. And they got predominantly nothing as far as value for their homes. The homes were no worse in the West End than they were in the East End of Rockville Center or the North or South. They were one had their house was like 5 years old, and because it was in the West End, and they gave them a little money to buy out and leave. Um, it was just a big turnover. So they were just going to tear down and rebuild factories. Initially, we had heard, but my mom and my aunt and maybe about 10 or 12 other women went out and they fought to have a place after the urban renewal would come in and tear down the homes. That they would not just take the people's homes but give them a place to live. We rented, so we didn't own our homes, so we did not have a choice of saying, I'm not going to sell my house. The person that owned our home owned a few homes in Rockville Center, so they sold the homes that they owned. It wasn't
How
really,
many homes were sold? How many houses were in the West End?
we minimum 50.
50
mm,
houses.
Minimum,
Mm-hmm.
because the West End went as far as Lakeview Avenue to trying to think of the name, to the fire station. To the railroad station would be a better landmark for anyone that does not know. And there were homes all over the place. Homes, and I'm like minimum 50. And in this clean out of homes, they built Old Mill Court first. They actually built a row of townhouses that sit on Center Avenue. Actually, that was the first project that they did. And then the next project they did was Old Mill Court. Meehan Lane came a little while after. They made a lot of promises and said that they were going to build attached homes for people to purchase, but it never, happened. But in that quest, my mom, NAACP, and there was another organization called CORE. They all got together and they fought, marched. Many a days we were at the train station as young children, passing out flyers, encouraging the community of Rockville Center to know exactly what was going on. Because if you weren't privileged to what was going on, you would never know. It's not like now that we have TV and we can watch what goes on in the town meetings now, but that's what happened back then, and it's because of my mom. My mom was always concerned about the communities that she lived in, and my aunts. When I look back, it's like really great to understand people that were concerned about their children, what kind of communities that their children were in, because after we came to New York, because I'm actually from Tennessee, I came here when I was 14, and my mom was always on top of her kids. There's friends of mine, we talk now, and I never went to their houses. I didn't actually know where they lived, and the community is not that large. But my mom always had her children where she could put her hands on, and we were not allowed to travel all over the place. She was a mom that was very protective of her group.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually only 5 of us. My oldest 3 siblings, they were all grown when we came to New York. So it was only the 5 of us, but she kept us in tow. She knew exactly where we was. So basically why I'm concerned about my community is because I was taught by someone that showed me how you care about where you live.
Well, you're clearly your mother's daughter. So let's talk a little bit about life before you came to Rockville Center. If you could tell me about your earliest childhood memories, where you were born, what your mom did, etc.
I was raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was born in Spring City, Tennessee, which is the country. I understand at the age of 4, our house burned down, and we moved to the city.
And the we being?
My mom and my siblings.
Was there a dad in your life?
No, my father was not in my life. My siblings' dad, my mom, I guess it was her husband. I don't think that they ever divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really recall.
Mm-hmm.
So when we left, he was there, but we moved. And I don't know, we must have not been in Tennessee very long because we moved to Indiana. Because I went to, kindergarten. And I remember having my vaccination and laying on a little pallet. I for some reason I remember that because that big old thing was on my arm, So the scab after it came out. So, and I remember Halloween, because that Halloween I was dressed as a little boy, my brother as a girl, and my older sister and my cousin, they reverted their sex.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going out trick-or-treating that year.
In Indiana?
In Indiana.
Did your mom work outside the home?
My mom did domestic work.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, she did for a living. And then we ended up we only stayed in Indiana for like 9 months.
So you were like 5 years old
when
you went to Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And do you recall where you lived? What kind of place you lived in?
We had to have lived in a house because we lived with my great aunt. So we had to have lived in a house up there. But I was just too young to really recall. I don't remember too much about Indiana because it's Gary, Indiana. And we were out there a couple of years ago. Maybe it was right after it must have been last year. After Michael Jackson died, because he lived somewhere. We ended up passing by his house and we had to go look at it. But I was just entirely too young to recall. But I know we had to have lived in a house because back then I don't think they had too many projects.
So after Indiana,
we went back to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I don't know. We lived in near my grandmother, and I know we lived in a house right between 2 churches, up on a hill, and it was really, really a high. The yard was really, really high because you couldn't jump down to the sidewalk; you had to come down the stairs. Then we moved to the projects on the other side of town.